Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Dave with Military to Millionaire. Today's interview is with Jacob Ayers. He is a fire protection engineer with 8 rental properties under his belt, and he currently runs the podcast, The Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom. So, Jake or Jacob, as we were just discussing whether we go by Dave or David, and then I told him Dave is what I use when I don't like talking to people jokingly, and I just referred to him as Dave, so I'm sure he feels super welcome on the show. No, but so Jacob and I guess first met on Bigger Pockets. You could say we didn't actually meet, but we were on Bigger Pockets episode, show 281, together. And then as soon as the episode aired, I reached out to him and the other guy, and I never heard from the other guy. But Jacob and I, since I've been on his podcast, we talk all the time, and so it was time to get him on here to talk to you guys. So welcome, Jacob. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey. Thanks so much for having me on. Jacob here. Yeah, excited. Like you mentioned, we're both on episode 281 of the BiggerPockets Podcast, which is a really cool experience. We reached out to each other, connected there, of course, got lots of commonalities. And it's been a fun time. I've had you on my podcast, and now I'm excited to be here and talk with your audience today.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, I've heard a little bit about your story, but what got you started in real estate?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and it's, there's not really like a point in time I can point to exactly and say like, oh, that was the light bulb. But, I was born and raised with this blueprint to go to school, get a good education, get a good job, go to college, do all those things right. And then the final step of that blueprint is get a good job. So I did that, right? I went to engineering school, got a degree, moved to Houston, Texas, where I entered the corporate world of engineering. And that was like the final master step in my whole blueprint that I was like born and raised with. So from there, it was like, all right, you're 23, 24 years old, got a whole life ahead of you and no future plans. So what was next? So I was really interested in personal finance and just trying to, get my head wrapped around how to, get my finances in order for the rest of my life. And, from there, there's no like unique advice out there. It's like, work for an employer, retire at the age 65, invest in your 401k and hey, just do those things. And I just didn't really settle well with me. So I started down this path of just looking at different options. And I'm a pretty simple guy. So at one point in time, I was trying to invest in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and just trying to, play that game. And I luckily did okay with it, but it was just blind, dumb luck. It wasn't because I had any kind of skill or knowledge or even halfway knew what I was doing, right? But I didn't lose my shirt, so that was okay. And then I thought, all right, well, I better, call it quits while I'm ahead. And I became really interested in real estate investing because it was like this tangible asset I could kind of understand. I think at the end of the day, everybody has some kind of level of understanding of real estate. Like I can show you an apartment or a house and you can say like, hey, that's a really nice property, or hey, that's a slum. I wouldn't live there. It's probably only going to rent for like $300 a month, or hey, that's a mansion. Like that thing's probably worth north of $10 million. So at the end of the day, everybody can kind of, understand the value of real estate, and same with me. So I just decided to take the leap, and I spent maybe 6 or 8, maybe even 12 months just purely educating myself, listening to podcasts, immersing myself in the world of BiggerPockets, which, you and I go way back on. And eventually I just decided to take the leap and buy my very first rental property, which was a very low-end property. I'd be happy to talk about the details of that one. But yeah, so it's been a fun journey ever since.
Yeah, that's killer. So and I agree, the whole talk real estate, because everyone's got an opinion on real estate. And I think one of the things I liked was as I started talking to people about how I was looking into real estate investing, the responses that I got from people who had mentored me at some point in life were much different from when I talked about buying a car or buying stocks or whatever. Like I was telling people all this stuff, kind of looking for like that self-validation, I suppose. And like, nobody had anything negative to say. Like the worst thing I heard was like, hey, make sure you have a good property manager. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, yeah. But like nobody was like, do not invest in real estate. Oh my goodness. Where I've heard that with stocks. I've heard that with different things that people, Bitcoin and things that I'm like, I don't know. But so that was a nice way of me like, oh, I should probably actually pursue this because people that I respect think it's a good idea rather than warning me about it. So yeah, anyway. All right. So let's roll into some questions here. I guess the first thing would be, before we get into like the advice piece and whatnot, you mentioned the one deal, but is there any specific deal that you'd like to run through as far as your strategy and some of your successful stuff that you've gotten to play along with?
On BiggerPockets, we're inundated with this BRRRR strategy, right? Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And I just recently this year fully executed that full project life cycle of my very first BRRRR. And that was pretty cool. So this was my second property I ever bought, which was a duplex. And I found this thing pretty interesting enough. I just shared this story recently. So at the time, I know Dave, you and I are always, talking about off-market strategies and how to find deals and mailing campaigns and tax records this and just all these complex strategies we're trying to formulate. But this deal came to me.
My mail outs that just came back.
Exactly, right? So this deal came to me by my 80-year-old grandpa who I call my Papa John, right? Like the pizza company. So my Papa John has no access to internet, doesn't get on the computer, doesn't own a cell phone, he's just, an 80-year-old man. And he brings me this deal. Well, essentially, he's out metal detecting with one of his buddies, and he says, yeah, my grandson's been buying properties, and, he's doing this thing now, and his metal detecting buddy says, oh, I know this property over here. Let's go metal detect its backyard. I know it's for sale. I know it's vacant. So my Papa John tells my grandma tells my dad. My dad's like, hey, we should go over here and take a look at this duplex. So look up the owners. It's for sale. It's like a for sale by owner sign on a Facebook page. And so I contact the lady. It's three sisters who have this property, and they've inherited it. They don't want to do anything with it. They don't want to rent it out. Both sides of this duplex are fully vacant. Outside looks pretty rough. Inside's okay, it needs a little TLC. So I walked this property the day of, and I asked the ladies, they're asking, I think, $60,000 for this property. I said, well, what's the lowest you'd take for this property today? They said, $55,000. And I was just doing some math in my head thinking, okay, each one of these units is going to rent for $595, $600 a month. And math checks out. So I was like, all right, I'll do $55,000. I'll draw up the contract tonight. And they're like, okay, well, we have a lady coming tomorrow to check it out, so we need to wait until then. I said, I'll buy it today. I'll get you a contract sent over in an hour. And it's like, well, what should we do about the lady coming tomorrow? I said, tell her you sold it.
Yeah.
Okay. So do the deal. And, step one, buy this fully vacant property, which is a little scary, right? Because you don't exactly have a proof of income. I'm ballparking these rents. I'm like, I think they'll rent for $600, but maybe they won't rent at all. I'm not sure. So fast forward, I get this place rented out for $600 a month, do some renovations, interior, exterior paint, finishings, nothing major. It didn't need, crazy renovations or anything. It didn't have to knock down walls and, restructure the building or anything. But so I do all that stuff. About a year and a half later, I get it reappraised, and it reappraises for $110,000. So doubles in value. And so I bought it for $55,000, appraised for $110,000, pull out my equity and roll it to another property. So that was cool just to see the whole BRRRR method come together from start to finish. And still got the property, obviously. It's rocking and rolling, and it's been really probably my biggest home run properties.
Yeah, that's super killer. That's cooler than my most recent BRRRR strategy, which was I found this property for, I kid you not, a wholesaler sent it to me, $18,500. I got should have been worth 70, 78. I think my comp was 78. Contractor said 20 grand tops to fix it. So I'm like doing the math. I'm like, perfect. And then in the time it took me to do the math, it was already contracted and sold in cash off market.
Oh,
so
bummer.
I was way too slow. It took me like 7 days to get all that done. Moral of the story, shouldn't have waited on the comp. Should have just gone with my head math. And I was just kind of sketched because I was, for me, I'm 6,000 miles away. So for me to do a long distance, I'm like, let me get my agent to verify my math on value. And I should have just pulled the trigger because someone else had bought it. But I mean, they had closed prior to me sending the email on the 7th day to say, I want to buy it right now. And they were like, oh yeah, we closed yesterday. The guy brought cash. And I'm like,
oh, wow. Yeah. Well, it was a good deal.
I'm like, dang it. So lesson learned, pull trigger, go boom. All right. So If you were to, so if someone was to come to you and ask you about real estate investing, or just, advice in general, financially or whatever, like a young 18, 20-year-old, what would you tell them? Like, what do you wish you had learned earlier on? Because you are exactly right on the same. I was raised in the school job mentality as well. In fact, we were joking earlier that when I said I was going to join the military, I basically got dragged to like every school in the state of Arkansas because they were convinced that if I found the right school, I would no longer want to join the military. Little did they know that I just wanted to blow stuff up. I didn't want to go to school. You can't take that out of me. So
I think we have some another shared interest there. I went to school for fire protection engineering. I just wanted to catch stuff on fire and put it out. So,
it's
hey,
fun.
find a college degree that lets you do that. It's pretty rare. So, yeah. Well, I don't know. If somebody in the, let's say 18 or 20 years old came to me and was asking me about real estate, first I would ask them some questions back, and they would be like, okay, what do you want your life to be like? Because, many people out there, the right path for them is to go to school, get a good education, and work for somebody else. If they want a stable, long-term career, then maybe working for an employer is the path. But if you want something that doesn't have a ceiling and you're in control of your own destiny and you can be creative with things, and if that's what you want, then maybe real estate is the path for you. Real estate investing, that is. So let's just assume that real estate investing is the path we're going to take because, that's the premise of the show, right? I would say, kind of once again, fast forward, what do you want your life to look like? Do you want to, have a lot of passive income? Do you want to build an active business? Are you going to, want to flip a bunch of homes every year and, have a crew of contractors and be very hands-on? Do you want to maybe just, work part-time for, whatever it is you like to do? Maybe it's, being an active duty Marine or being a fire protection engineer, and you just want to supplement your income. So I think really auditing what you want your life to look like and what your goals are is like the first step. And then from there, I mean, your options are so endless with real estate, right? Like we were mentioning, you can wholesale, you can flip, you can buy and hold, you can, do repeated burst strategies. So I would say just think about what you want your life to be like, kind of map it out, and just do things intentionally. And, your options are really endless with what you can do in the world of real estate investing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing is that like the more creative you are and the more you let your imagination run wild, the more opportunities you create for yourself. In fact, I had a buddy post something about that yesterday, and I was like, yeah, I just released a video on creative financing because like I've somehow managed, and I think it's all luck of the draw, but who knows, but like somehow managed to not pay over 6% down on a single property yet, which granted might be a little over leveraged on some stuff, but I think, you mentioned like opportunities, like they're out there. You just got to be creative. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's definitely right. I mean, there's so many ways you can do real estate, and the more creative you can get, the more opportunities you can create for yourself. So having your 80-year-old grandpa be your bird dog, or, finding properties like you do, or, investing 6,000 miles away, there's just all kinds of different ways you can do it. The more creative you can get with it, the more fun you can have. And yeah.
It's all about a system and a team.
Yes, definitely so.
All right. So I like this question, and it kind of ties back into the real estate side. So what makes the Jacob Ayers version of or method of real estate investing unique or successful? So I know we talked about a BRRRR strategy, but what is it that allows you to be successful? Like what would you, I don't know.
I'd say it's mindset. Yeah. So I try not to let real estate investing stress me out. I like for it to be fun, and it's something I want to do. I don't want it to be like a burdensome thing. And, like I need to make, all these deals happen in order to, continue to put food on my table or something like that. I try to just let it, be the thing that, I like to do. I don't want it to like really ever become a burdensome thing. And it can easily do that because there are some definite pitfalls in real estate investing, right? Like just this morning, I woke up to a call like plumbing shut off at a rental property, got to handle it. But, those things are going to come up. So you just have to have the mentality that those things are going to happen. Don't let them stress you out when they come. Build some processes and some systems of how you're going to handle these things. And just try to, roll with the punches. So for me, it kind of starts with that mindset of just, understanding that there are going to be some punches you're going to take, and try to develop some systems and processes. So, and then, after that, after, getting that mindset down, is I really focus a lot on scalability and being able to unplug from the business a lot. So yeah, that's kind of like my take on real estate.
I think people, I think one of the biggest questions I get is, how am I able to buy property when I'm, 6,000 miles away? Like, and I flew home for my big one, but I flew home like 2 days before we closed. And it was just because I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm obligated to see this thing. But I actually had no intention of seeing it until my partner was like, you should probably go look at it. I'm like, okay, fine. And people, it scares people to say that, but honestly, I think it's a blessing for me, because what being 6,000 miles away has forced me to do is trust my team and have a system, because I couldn't operate real estate. Like, I could not manage my properties from here, on my own and worry about every detail, because it's 3 a.m. when you guys are waking up. So it would not be conducive to my lifestyle. And so it's forced me to have a team and systems. And so I think that's almost a benefit. And if you can get to the point where, like you said, stepping away and having systems in place and not stressing, like, other than this one property that you and I kind of talked about, that's a little bit of a headache for me right now, all of my other real estate, the extent of my dealings with it is that I get an email from my property manager at the end of the month that says, here's your report. And if there's something big, she'll call me, but I haven't gotten one of those phone calls in like 4 or 5 months. It's literally just like, hey, here's your report. Any questions? Nope. And then my hour a month is spent on, okay, type up my report, because I'm a bum and don't have an assistant yet. But I mean, like, they're totally stress-free and they're cash flow. And that's just systems. So.
Yeah. So many people come to you, I'm sure, and they're like, David, what about, when, you get a plumbing leak, or what about this, or what about that? And it's like, yeah, those things happen. I know they're going to happen, but what's your option? Not invest in real estate because you don't want to deal with the leaky toilet, or, you don't want to read the property management statement, or whatever it is. Like, it's not a good enough reason to avoid something, right?
Yeah. I don't even know about that stuff. Like, I will get my report at the end of the month and go, oh, I spent $60 on plumbing this month. Do I care to ask what that was? Nah. Like, I told my manager, hey, unless it's over $300 or something really weird that you're not sure what route to go to solve it, don't call me. And
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I don't like, and I told her, hey, if it's something that you can replace, so like if a light bulb goes out, replace it with an LED. If toilet breaks and you need to buy a new one, buy a high efficiency one. Like, if it's something you can spend an extra $50 to $100 to upgrade more efficiently, do it. If not, buy the cheapest one and don't bug me unless it costs over this much. And she's awesome. Like, So anyway, so systems, wonderful. Totally agree. I'm going to not hijack this. All right. So, man, we've kind of covered some of these questions, but I guess, I'm going to throw a weird one at you, and I did not prep you for this.
No worries.
But I just thought about this because it is December 14th. So everybody's going to start setting their new year, new me, New Year's resolutions, and all this other crazy stuff. So I guess my question would be, is there any goal for 2019 that you're dead set on that you would care to share? Or is there a strategy that you use for goal setting that you would like to, that you think has made a difference in your life? Because I would assume, and I could be totally wrong on this, that you are the type of person that has some goals in life, because I have yet to meet a real estate investor who does not at least on some level set a goal. And if you're that guy, then, just omit this entire part of the conversation. But
yeah, that's right. You bring up an interesting point. Most real estate investors have goals, and I don't know if it's just because the nature of the business, you've got to have them, or if it's a personality type that's drawn to real estate investing. But first and foremost, New Year's resolutions and New Year's goals are kind of my pet peeve. Like, I don't understand the concept of waiting until a certain date. Like, I'm going to become a better person, but not until January 1st. Like, it's November. I'm just going to continue being a lazy bum for the next 2 months. And then come January 1st, I'm going to turn it on. Like, no, start today. Like, don't wait until January 1st. It's December 14th today. Don't wait until January 1st, even though it's 2 weeks away. Like, turn it on now. Get after it. Or like, start thinking about it. So yeah, I think goal setting is so important, right? Because if you don't have something you're aiming at, then what are you doing, right? So I like to start with some long-term goals, like 10-year goals, and then back calculate from there. Okay, so if that's your 10-year goal, whatever it might be, what's your 5-year goal? Where do you need to be at year 5? And then where do you need to be at year 1? And then I really like yearly goals because I can kind of operate on a yearly basis, right? So say your goal is to, buy, I don't know, let's say a duplex in 2019. What do you need to do in 2019 to buy that duplex? Well, you're going to have to analyze, let's say, 100 deals. So what does that mean every month? You're going to have to analyze, 8 deals a month or whatever it is. So I really like kind of taking that step-by-step approach and goal setting. And of course, they have to be smart, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-sensitive, time-bound, right? Is that smart? Yeah. So
right on the
I
money.
think those are really important. And but my first and foremost piece of advice is don't wait to start setting those goals. Don't wait to start acting on them. Like, don't wait until January 1st. There's no need to do that. So yeah, just get after it now.
Totally agree. Yeah. So don't watch my Facebook Live on the 29th because it's going to be talking about New Year's goals. So I was sitting around and I'm like, okay, so this is the world is going to end as far as those 4 days of people just posting all of this stuff about all New Year, new me and blah, blah, blah. And so I got like 4 or 5 different guys. We're going to do like a group chat, turn it into a Facebook Live and basically talk about like 2018, 2019 and just try to answer questions about just what you and I are just talking about. But I totally agree. Like I set goals, but then, if I meet one, I set the next one. It's not like, oh, I met that. All right, we'll wait till January 1st to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, right? I don't mean to come down so hard on New Year's resolutions because like at the end of every year, I look at my next year plan, right? And I say, okay, in 2019, what are my goals now or where am I at? So yeah, I look at things in a monthly, annual, decade type basis. But if you've got 0 goals today, don't wait until some arbitrary calendar date to get started. So yeah, I like what you're doing there too. I don't mean to come so.
Oh no, I totally agree with you. There's a super negative connotation to New Year's resolutions anyway, because it's like the meme war of like gym today, gym tomorrow, no gym the next day. And I think that people set themselves up for failure by joking about that stuff because they think like, oh yeah, well, it's no big deal. Everyone else fails on their goals in the first month. Like, No. People who abide by the New Year's resolution change my life today mentality do. People who set goals do not. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I think it's a mentality thing. But anyway, I digress. So we're going to get into, because I know you got not a whole ton of time, and we may be able to talk about this next one for a little bit, but what is one resource, book, course, website, etc., that you would recommend to anybody getting started in real estate? And I'm sorry for those of you who are like, wow, this jerk is yawning. It's still only 5:15 in the morning here. So my coffee is yet to be found, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's hard not to reference BiggerPockets. They are the elephant in the room when it comes to real estate advice, networking, education. And of course, you and I, that's how we met. So, it's got a near and dear place in my heart. It provided me a ton of great information and resources when I was getting started. So let's set that aside. Let's just assume like that's a given. I think the best resource I could recommend are podcasts just in general, because it's like the new Google. Anything you want to learn in depth about, there's a podcast out there. If you want to learn about Harry Potter trivia, I guarantee there's 100 Harry Potter trivia podcasts out there. Real estate, there's a bazillion. So anything you want to learn, you can find out through a podcast, just like, what we're doing here, YouTube video series, those kinds of things. So I think that's a phenomenal resource and it's free, by the way. I think every podcast I've ever come across is free. And so, I'd say podcasts are just like a great resource to just kind of get involved in the world of real estate investing or whatever it is you want to do. And from there, it's a rabbit hole. So
yeah, podcasts are good. And shameless plug for BP because I love them. BiggerPockets is wonderful. And podcasts. And I think that, I don't know. There's so many rabbit holes you could go down with that, but at the end of the day, if you're taking some time to learn for yourself, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think it's setting aside a certain amount of time every day, week, month, whatever it is, to invest in yourself, because this whole real estate investing thing is, you're ultimately investing and you're expecting a return, but the best investment you can make is not in a house. It's not in an apartment building. It's not in some, super low key or high key storage unit somewhere. it's what's in between your ears. It's your mind. So if you're not taking the time to invest in yourself, then don't even bother in investing in anything else.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why all of us are weirdos when it comes to listening to audiobooks and reading books and talking about goals. And I think that's hitting the nail on the head. And that's why we all end up on podcasts and talk intelligently, or try to talk intelligently about this stuff, because we've spent time learning it, whether it's on our commute or anyway. So before we wrap this up, is there anything you want to add? Any parting advice, big ideas, or anything that we didn't touch on that I should have asked you?
Yeah, I would say, look, if you're thinking about getting started investing in real estate and you're unsure of, whether it's for you or whether you can manage it, or if you're worried about the pitfalls or worried about the hardships or whatever, I would say take some time, educate yourself, and just take action. That action could be buying a book on Amazon and reading it. That action could be downloading a podcast and listening to it. That action could be going to BiggerPockets and spending 20 minutes just looking in the forums. It could be buying your very first deal. It could be researching property managers. Just take action and take that next step and that next one and that next one. And soon enough, you'll look back and you'll realize you've accomplished all of this. So I would say just, once you decide on it, spend some time investing in yourself and then take action. So yeah, it's doable to everyone out there. Trust me, if Dave and I can do it, then pretty sure anybody else can. So
I is Marine. Yeah, no. And that's exactly what I always tell people is like, learn, network, and take action. If you can educate yourself and then go for it, because the most of your learning will be done when you put your foot out the door and take that action. And I've found that most of the time when you take action, the learning is good learning, and it's things going your way because you took action and took control of your situation in your life. So, all right, Jacob, where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I host the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, so you can find that anywhere you can find podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, all those places. And if you want to connect with me, learn about what I'm doing, reach out to me, the best place to do so is www.jacobayers.com.
Totally forgot to plug your website earlier.
No worries.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jacob, I know you don't have a whole lot of time, so we'll wrap this up, but I really appreciate you coming and chatting with us for a little while. You and I have talked multiple times, and I'm sure we'll continue to stay in touch because it sounds like we're pretty much on the same path as far as our thought processes and objectives. So I look forward to seeing what real estate does for you in the next little while, and I look forward to continuing to listen to your podcast.
Hey, thanks so much. And hey, thanks for having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Anytime, brother. Have a great day.